It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. This is Conduit News Radio. Matter of fact, sitting next to me, we have the wife of Bob Bailey. Miss Gayla Bailey is joining us. Gayla, welcome to the program for the first time.
Thank you very much.
Glad that you could make it. Let's see here. I just wanted to talk a little bit about your background in education, right? You were a teacher for how long?
For 37 years in the Russellville School District.
Okay.
I feel like it was my calling. Enjoyed teaching greatly. It was, and the odd thing is that I taught civics and government and citizenship, and then Bob decides that he wants to, quote unquote, throw his hat in the ring and attempt to bring principles back into government that he thinks are missing.
Yeah.
I taught the principles that Bob stands for. He is a true limited government conservative. He believes that the power should rest in the hands of the people and not elected officials. He also has a very strong sense of individual responsibility and individuals' rights to make their own choices and decisions. And I think as a teacher and as a mom and as a citizen that the ability that we have to raise voters who are responsible to the people of their district, the better we do, the better off we'll be as a state and a community.
Yeah.
But having said that, this is not my comfort zone. If I were in a classroom of say 30 kids, I would feel much more comfortable. This whole campaign has pushed me out of my comfort zone.
Right.
And there are certain things that have been discussed and have been stated about not only Bob but me that really cause me concern, like that Bob doesn't support public education.
Yeah.
Well, and this is, I'm going to teach you.
Yep.
Okay. Just like I would teach my students. Okay. Here we go.
All right.
So issues are fluid. They're changing. You can't say public education and know all about it. It's not possible. There are too many components. There are too many parts of the public education system. And if somebody comes out and says, well, Bob Bailey doesn't support public education, there could be nothing further from the truth. Bob lived public education with me in the classroom. I love public education. My children were greatly benefited by public education. Now, are there parts of public education that Bob might not agree with? Well, possibly. It's just like if I go on the record and say I want smaller classrooms.
Right. You're now disagreeing with, you could be framed to disagree with public education because you don't think maybe 30 is too big. Maybe 15 would be better.
There you go. And that's a situation that I feel like you can't win it. And you can't address every little petty thing that's brought up. But I think that any campaign, it doesn't make any difference whose, needs to be very careful about how they generically qualify something as this is my opponent's opinion. Yeah. Because in this case, there could be nothing further from the truth.
Yeah. So as a public school teacher, we're talking with Gayla Bailey. She's the wife of Bob I'm a public school teacher, I know I'm going to back up to the civics.
Okay.
Because I think that's great. I mean, how many students, I think I heard a number the other night, how many students you have taught civics. And I bet a lot of them are listening right now or are still living in the area,
I taught approximately 5,500.
5,500 students over the course. Wow, that's amazing.
And all here because my whole teaching experience is here. I know a lot of them are in the area. A lot of my former students have reached out to me through Bob's campaign, and I actually keep in touch with many of them. I enjoy the fact that a lot of them are very active in their communities, not just, and that's something else I'd like to say. You don't have to be a candidate for office to be politically active. Your political activism can be in a lot of ways. It can be volunteering. It could be writing letters to the editor of a newspaper. It could be a blogger. It might even be like having your own conservative talk radio show.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So the concept that that political just means running for office, I think is off.
Well, talk about the concept. I think a lot of voters are they don't agree with being a career politician or using politics as a career. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, you probably don't want to know my thoughts on that, but politics isn't a career. It's not designed to be a career in a Republican system of government. In a democratic republic, the quote unquote term politics doesn't really apply. Our government's set up for elected officials to serve the constituents that they represent.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose of our republic as such. You can't go get a degree in quote unquote politics. When Bob's not a politician, and thank goodness Bob will never be a politician. He is not gonna cater to anybody. He'll listen. He's a good listener.
Right.
He's a good talker.
He's not going to be bullied or pushed around, by anyone.
Just let me say, there have been major attempts to bully and push Bob around, such as, this goes back to civics. Bob's campaign originally, from the very beginning, set out a course of how they wanted to run this campaign. It was very hands-on. Knock on doors, shake people's hands, go to small businesses, visit communities. And his opponent enjoys campaigning in a different way. And so the media coverage, especially social media, has come across very negative for Bob.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. How does a campaign, and with the influx of social media, how can a candidate control what others say? Because, the passions are so high on both sides,
You can't control your supporters. I'm sure both sides would say, oh, I wish that this person hadn't said this. And you can't control your supporters. The best thing that any individual could do, if they're reviewing the candidates, if they're looking into the issues, is to go to the source. They need to look at Bob's campaign page. They need to read what Bob says, not what is being said about Bob.
Right.
Not someone else's judgment about Bob, but what Bob says, what Bob's campaign says. And the social media spin has degraded political campaigning.
Yeah. Well, there's also been, we're talking with Gayla Bailey. She's the wife of Bob Bailey. Social media, I guess we've also discovered some interesting things on social media too. I mean, based on supporters, there are some supporters who are saying they're voting for Bob's opponent, and they are openly saying, that they are not Republicans, that they're actually Democrats. I find that kind of interesting. We were just talking about that, how, we may have people who maybe disagree with limited government conservatism, and so they're going to, vote for Brienne instead. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think that's very sad.
Yeah.
When the system was set up, it was set up for honorable people. Primaries are set up for the political party to choose the candidate that they feel is best to run in a general election. It's not, and never was meant to be, a chance for the opposition to throw the election to the candidate that they most prefer. It kind of defeats the whole purpose
of parties, really.
Of parties.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Well, that's certainly interesting. Okay, let me see here. What else? Let's talk about made a social media post this morning on the politics of money. So tell us about that specific post.
Okay. Well, first, you could go to my Facebook page and read it.
Okay.
Honestly, I have tried to stay out of the fray, but some things have been said and certain accusations made that I said I just need to address. Someone used to address it, might as well be me.
Okay.
I always taught my students to be active in supporting what they believe and to have the proof for what they believe, or I didn't want to hear it.
Okay.
They used to not like that very much in class, but it was good for them. And I think that I developed some really strong self-thinkers. But yesterday, the Freedom of Information Act, the candidates have to turn in their donations and the monies that have been contributed to them. And those numbers came out, and I was going through them and looking at them. And it was so blatantly obvious that there was a money direction and support for one candidate over the other candidate.
Yeah.
And so I took the time to balance this out, to show contributions from where and from whom and for both sides, also the spending. And both campaigns have talked about how there was outside money coming into each campaign. The numbers will show that that one campaign has approximately $150,000, the bulk of which is from Little Rock.
Yeah.
And other out of district funds.
12,000 of it is from out of state.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I probably need to just go ahead and qualify right now. Bob's campaign did get $100 from out of state.
$100.
Yeah. We're not sure where that money was specifically spent, but there was $100 from out of state. And we had one Facebook attack on us in our campaign because we accepted that $100.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Was that recently, or was that
it was the first time.
First time.
I'm sure that
12,000 though. And see, and I guess that's what's frustrating is the other side has made money an issue of the campaign when what they are accusing one side of they're more guilty of. And I think it's because they immediately, I think they know that was I don't know that they were vulnerable to that,
Well, I people have heard me say before, it's like a tit for tat thing. If one side is going to attack the other side, then they need to know that they're also susceptible for attack. And you can't say one person's wrong if the other person is doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
But I'd really like for people to follow the money, because Bob's campaign is run on a very small.
Yeah. Well, and you go back and listen to all that talk about money outside of the district, and you say, you look at it and it's like, wow, okay, Bob Bailey has run a successful campaign. He has made it to a runoff, and he's only raised $42,000 when she's raised 142, 150. That's amazing, and it's very clear who the underdog is here. Compared to the the establishment, and of course, I think I was at the polls yesterday, and I think there's just a ton of support right now. People getting out and voting for Bob, just from what I can tell. But it's let's make money. If people who are listening want to make money an issue of the campaign, I agree with you, Gayla. We'll follow the money. Where's it really coming from? And let the numbers speak for themselves.
That's the point. That's the whole point of
the post.
The post. That's the whole point. And I think it goes back, and I'm just going to say, I think it goes back to how the campaigns have been working. Bob may not have the money, but he has the individual support. He has people working at the grassroots level who can't afford to give him $2,700, who will go knock on doors, or who will make telephone calls. And it just shows the supporter group that, has worked with Bob. And I appreciate that. I think that if we made political campaigns more personal, that we would probably have better people willing to throw their hat into the ring to campaign.
Yeah.
And then I think the other issue is, and again, we kind of go back to social media. Neither candidate should be attacked on their personal views. I am a perfectly capable person to determine what I believe and why I believe it. And you don't have any right to attack me personally. You can have a conflict with my view.
Yeah, your policy.
Yeah. You can say, man, Ms. Bailey, I really see it this way. Wonderful. I think that's great. I mean, that's fine. I'm not going to attack you. Mm-hmm. It's just like in any information. When I was driving in this morning, Polk County Sheriff's deputy passed me, and I pulled over because he was lights going.
Oh, he had the lights going.
Okay. And I pulled over. I could have walked in this morning and said, "Oh, Paul, you wouldn't believe my morning. I got pulled over by a Polk County sheriff." All right, what's everybody going to think?
Right.
That they pulled me over. I was speeding. I was doing something illegal. That wasn't it at all. I was simply doing what I'm supposed to do as a driver on the road.
Yeah, when you see the lights behind you. Yeah.
But campaigns can cause any spin that they want to on that.
Right.
And that's when it's the responsibility of the voter to actually go out and make sure that what they're reading and what's being said is correct. That's why you go to the candidates page.
Yeah, and get them in their own words. And that's the thing. I think like both of these candidates have spoken plenty at public forums and have, and we know, we have records of what they have said. And I think, that's when it becomes an issue. Of course, then, I have found, then you got accusations if they don't like it, oh, you're fake news. And that sort of thing. Have you heard the fake news
please.
Gangs out there?
Yes. One of my very favorite things from your broadcast yesterday about the
contract,
the
government contract,
right?
Yeah,
and it looks unethical. Was it ethical? I think the paperwork will show you that you can see what took place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can see
it's there.
It's there
in the public. It's FOIable. Everybody can get the documents that we have.
And again, it can be spent.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that what you presented was fact. You can't argue with fact. She is part of a company. She has access to a school board.
Yeah.
She has special access because of her position. And then she gets a contract.
Her company does.
Her company gets a contract. Yeah. Well, they had a foot in the door.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And that's all I was saying, because that kind of stuff is rampant. Like I said, maybe people are fine with that. And there's people there's probably, maybe there's business people right now that say, well, that's perfectly fine. Okay, all right. Well, then make the decision. Yeah. But let's not just say that's not true.
Well, and then the Facebook posts were, oh, that's just the spin. That's fake news. If they would look at the information, they would see it's not fake news. You can't say something's fake news just because you don't like the news.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You can't just blatantly say, well, I don't believe it because it was on conservative talk radio.
Yeah.
But now if it'd been on Howard Stern, I'm all about it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You have to look at both sides of any issue. So
let's just, as we're wrapping up, we're talking with Gayla Bailey. She's the wife of Bob Bailey. So just how are you doing? I know this has been out of your comfort zone. You said that earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
But where do we go from here? How do we propel through Tuesday? What are you guys doing to make that happen?
Well, Bob's campaign is still knocking on doors. Bob's still visiting area businesses. Bob has spent a lot of time simply walking the streets. His campaign is personal. It's based on getting people to know him as a person. And Bob is, he's just a good man. He, this is not his comfort zone either, but he has a strong desire to see the people back in control of the state government. He hasn't gotten the big Republican support. He's not supported by the huge Little Rock PACs. And his campaign has actually turned down money from people that he just said he wouldn't feel comfortable taking money from. I think that says a lot about his character.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be bullied into doing something just for the sake of doing it. He's gonna listen, and he's going to address issues, and he's going to be positive. And I feel very confident that his campaign is going to be successful.
Yes.
Because of the simple fact, the way that they have carried themselves and handled the pressures and the issues involved in campaigning.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of him.
Good.
I'm very proud of him, and I'm proud of the honest and forthright campaign that his committee has carried out.
Yeah.
And just saying, and I probably not even supposed to say this, but I'm going to anyway. I hope that people will get out and vote for Bob. I would love for people that have questions about anything to come into the headquarters and actually talk to him.
Yeah.
Listen to him.
Yeah.
Be open-minded enough to hear a different point of view.
So Gayla Bailey, I take it you're voting for your husband?
Already did that.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the program. I really do.
Thank you very much.
Folks, we're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. Back in just a moment.